Yes. I will let you start straight away.
Yes, thank you very much, and hello everybody. I am pleased to be here with you all today with so interesting presentations. And I will start my presentation entitled What We Know About Taekwondo Patterns and Observation and Analysis using Mixed Methods Methodology, with a short introduction about the sport for a better understanding of the results obtained in our research. Let's see, that now it doesn't. Yes. Taekwondo is a sport wherein two athletes compete among each other, trying to obtain more points by reaching the permitted areas on the body's opponent. Actions occur very fast, and athletes need to react quickly with no time to think or to analyze the best possible answer among all the possible responses. Also, the fact that one athlete scores, it doesn't mean that the competition stops, which, for example, is the case in fencing. In this sense, it is important for coaches to have relevant information to guide their athletes and suggest specific patterns to build a strategy that gives the better probability to solve the constraints and uncertainty of the game. In this sense, observation and analysis allow Taekwondo coaches and athletes to orient their training towards evidence-based practice to achieve success in competition. The first step when we are starting an observation and analysis is to provide a framework. According to Gonzalez et al., from a tactical perspective, and in order to score, Taekwondo athletes can perform attacking or counter-attacking actions. Within the attacking actions, Taekwondo athletes can choose between a direct or indirect attack. Meanwhile, depending on the timing from when the attacking or the technique is performed, counter-attacking actions can be classified as anticipatory, simultaneous, or posterior. This framework is something alive and can change either because the athletes include newer strategies or because the rules change. A good example of that is the blocks that after London 2012 and with the introduction of the electronic protectors increase their use of occurrence. The next step is to define the categories in order of one or more researchers can use them as a tool at the same time or continue over time or replicate the study. Within the observational analysis, one possibility are those studies that focus on the frequency of an event. This is what is known as scoring. Nevertheless, studies based on frequency of occurrence give us poor or incomplete information that can be used by coaches. An example can be seen in the slide, wherein among the 8 different weight categories, differences were found only in linear kicks. In this other study, the results showed that Taekwondo athletes perform more attacks than counter-attacks in the slide on the right, on the left, and the winners perform less indirect attacks and more anticipations than non-winners on the slide or on the graphic on the right. This is of course interesting, but in a way we can say that the quality of the information from a practical perspective is not optimal. A more interesting possibility is to analyze the significant relationships between events of behavior of interest. In this sense, the first step is to establish the possible relationships or sequences of behavior. In our model, we establish a sequence that can be observed in the slide, wherein to an action performed by the athlete A follows another performed by the athlete B, and then the sequence can either finish or continue again with another action performed by the athlete A. Polar coordinate analysis is a type of analysis that involves the detection of significant associations between the focal behavior, the behavior of interest, and conditional behaviors, the rest of behaviors analyzed. Polar coordinate analysis provides a behavioral map that is represented into 4 quadrants. In this sense, the first quadrant appears those behavior that can occur before and after the focal behavior. In the second quadrant appears those behaviors that occur before the focal behavior, while in the third quadrant appears those behaviors that does not occur or are inhibited. Lastly, in the fourth quadrant appears those behaviors that occur after the focal behavior. With this in mind, we built a tool with 11 criteria and 42 categories to analyze the Olympic Games of London in 2012. With the observation of 6 matches, we analyzed the external validity with an analysis of generalizability, and also the internal validity, that is to analyze each category included in each criterion of the categorical system. The results show that the tool was valid to observe Taekwondo matches. Then we analyzed all the matches of the London Olympic Games, and here in one of the studies we analyzed how the athletes behave to score, dividing them by sex in order to know the patterns used by male and females, and also if they compete similar or different. So in the illustration in the slide, we can see different patterns performed by male and female when they try to score 1 point. Also, if we analyze when we use as a focal behavior 2 points, how they score, we also can see that there are different patterns between males and females, but also how they obtain the points in contrast with how they obtain 1 point. Lastly, we can see as well that is a complete different patterns when they try to score 3 points, that is a kick to the head. Another study, we follow the athletes that obtained two medals in London Olympic Games and Rio 2016, and here there are not fewer significant patterns than expected, and this might be because the rules change between both competitions, which affects the probability of occurrence on the patterns. But in any case, what we can see is that those two athletes perform more specific patterns than those multiple patterns that all the athletes in 2012 Olympic Games, they perform. Lastly, and coming back to the model proposed by Salzburg in 1975, we perform a Markov chain analysis in order to see the possible relationships or sequences of behavior with more than 2 relationships. In this sense, in the slide, we can see that in red arrow shows a strong relationship, while in black arrow there are showed the relationships in both genders, while in blue arrows is presented or are presented the relationships only in males. With this in mind, we can say that the observation and analysis reveals a strong methodology that provides information for coaches and athletes to build a strategy that gives the better probability to solve the constraints and uncertainty of the game. With this in mind, I would like to thank you for this time.